रहा है, so there is something got. Oh, okay, we're recording it.
Sorry.
So the idea is to check in with your feelings. So there are two questions that you normally ask. So question one is, how are you feeling right now? And feeling could be about anything. And the second question is there anything preventing you from being fully present? And like, for example, Gulshan ke piche wo, things are happening. So these are two important questions. So I'll just repeat the question. How are you feeling right now? The feeling can be respect to anything, but just feeling of the moment. And is there anything preventing you from being fully present? But इसके पीछे ना एक little backstory है. I'll just go through the backstory and then we start with the two questions. So the backstory is in the airline industry, when they were analyzing near misses of aeroplanes, things that could crash, they noticed that one of the real things was the mood of the pilot and the co-pilot. So if you had a fight with a girlfriend, or you had a fight or a divorce or whatever, or you were on the brink of something, then that mood had a lot of bearing on how you would fly the plane. So one of the learnings they had is always before starting the flight, starting with when you're responsible for something, check in with the feelings with your pilot and the co-pilot so that you are able to talk through your stuff. The German wings disaster was by the way was because somebody had a fight with his girlfriend. He crashed the whole plane along with 86 other people. So this check-in is important. So anybody wants to start in with his check-in, her check-in, or his check-in?
Yeah, so right now I'm feeling very rested. I had a very long nap. So I'm feeling rested and I'm in a room all by myself. So I'm like fully present here. There's nothing else for me to do. Nowhere
Very
else
good.
to be. Yeah,
Very good. Very good. Who goes next?
I was not present when you were asking the question.
Acha, how are you feeling right now? And is there anything
No,
preventing you from
I
being
know,
fully
but I
present?
remember I heard the question. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you repeat. No, I was just trying to say I wasn't present because I was dealing with the background, which was the old one. Some of these
Acha.
things, yeah,
Acha, acha, acha.
but
Okay.
yeah, but yeah, I kind of similar to Suresh, had a really busy kind of a week. So yeah, I was a little not. I feel happy to be here now. Looking forward to what we're talking about, and also I feel a little guilty because I haven't still finished reading the book. So that's another feeling that I have. But I'm also feeling कि मैं थोड़ा सा आज एक डॉक्टर बनूंगा एमडीआई वाला. तो I'll take advantage of all you guys and have fun with all your inputs and not feel guilty about that. So
That's true. That's
yeah,
true.
yeah.
The only word I would underline is Aj is not necessarily true, Arpit. It could be it could have been from a long time. Dr. Raj नहीं जरूरी.
वो तो यार तू मेरे को मेरी फीलिंग पूछ रहा था ना.
नहीं, that's a fair point.
तेरे इंटरप्रिटेशन थोड़ी बना ऐड कर रहा हूँ
बना.
तेरे.
नहीं, fair point. Fair catch, fair catch. Okay, who's next?
Yeah, I'll go next.
Sorry. Yeah.
क्या बोलूं? हाँ. Yeah, something to
नहीं,
say?
मैंने पूछा anything preventing you from being fully present, Arpit को पूछना था.
Arpit, you want to answer that?
Not now. Now I am present, so I'm glad to be here. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm mentally very rested because weekend was nice and I have time for myself. But like I said, and with me being fully present for any session online is a big task because there are so many domestic pulls all the time. My son is screaming from there, मुझे banana milkshake दे दो, मुझे पनीर का पराठा लाना है, मैंने अपने proteins बढ़ाने हैं. Then the maid has come on, क्या बनाऊं? Then the kids are coming from the back. Then my mom will say something. So all these pulls are always there around me. I have to somehow manage with them. Now I put my headphones because बच्चे पीछे से आते हैं चिल्लाते हैं, so I can't hear. So there's a lot that is trying to distract me, but I am hell bent on attending the session and trying to make the most of it.
Thank you.
That's it.
And feeling, so you said your feeling
so-
was you're feeling rested.
Yeah, I'm quite calm and rested, but I'm just irritated with all these little tick, 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 continuously tick, 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 chalta rehta hai. I mean, I have no respite from it. ये मेरी life का constant है.
ठीक है. Thank you for sharing. Mr. Saraf.
Yeah, so I'm feeling really good, very excited to be here. And I had read The Black Swan ages ago, maybe about maybe 15, 20 odd years ago. And, so when I recalled that, or rather when I came to know that this was being discussed, I was really excited. So that was one.
Okay.
And
Please. Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Please carry on.
Okay. So I'm pretty much relaxed, I would say, at the same time, and very much present, very much in. Looking forward to really having a great discussion. A little apprehension since some discussion has already been going on. I don't know where I am in the process and what. So I just and recently I have not read the book, though I have done some research on the Black Swan. I've read summaries and I've done some research, but I've not read the book, recently. But I'm hoping to be able to read, in due course and in the future sessions that follow, read more. So that is where I am. But I have my ideas. I have some ideas about it, which I'm, hoping to discuss and also learn. So that's where I am.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anything preventing you from being fully present?
No.
Okay, thank you. I'll go next. I'm in a happy place. Yesterday, our daughter returned from her college and we picked her up from the airport. So, feeling really happy. We had a Diwali party which had more Pakistanis than Indians. And then you realize that everybody is just the same. And they had more fun than the Indian families. So, I'm in a very happy place. Yeah, so that's the good thing. On this, especially anything preventing me from being fully present, I hadn't planned to take this call from the basement, so clearly location is causing a little worry. But if the echo is all right, we can proceed. Is the echo okay, or is it too much? Or it's okay. Okay. All right. Hey, folks, we are proceeding now to the discussion on the Black Swan, and we said that any idea that appeals to you and how you can personalize it. But before we do that, on the check-in and the two questions that you answered, had some of you done this before? Had some of you not done this before? How does it feel to let go of the emotion? Just a quick thought. Yes.
Done this before. So one of my jobs when I was in TI, and the HR head, he used to have a weekly meeting where we discussed everything in work, but he would start with a check-in. So I thought it was a really nice thing because you're connecting at the human level first.
Yeah, exactly.
The human
how does
connection.
it feel to do check-in right now, Gulshan, after that?
I think it's a good thing, and the safety of the space also matters. This is a very safe space. A workspace with hierarchical relationships and power imbalances is not necessarily the best place. Though he did it, I mean, he took that chance, and because he wanted to check into everyone and get a feel for how his people would do, his team was. So that was I thought a very good leadership behavior. That he really cared for his team. So so I'm good with that. I think I like it. MDI, these are, I mean, we are friends, we are colleagues, we are classmates. So this is a very safe space.
Fair point. Arpit, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I've done this before as well. I've been in a session by my wife she does this pretty regularly.
Oh, yeah, you told me.
So it's quite familiar, and yeah, I mean, I'm anyway part of a community where we do this kind of thing pretty regularly anyways, so it's very familiar. and happy to
Chalo.
do it, happy to share.
Very good. Very good. Very good. So, hey folks, how do we proceed? Some of us have picked up the ideas and the appeals. Does somebody want to go first? And then I have a little planned talk, but I would probably go later. So the question was, which idea in the book appealed to you? And if you can personalize it and share it through an example and connect it with an example. Is there someone who's done little thinking on this? Suresh?
हाँ, मैं वही बोलने वाला था, सुरेश।
उसी को
साला कैमरा ऑफ करके बैठा हुआ है, अभी दिखता नहीं है।
अच्छा, आई थॉट मेरे व्यू में खराबी है।
He's gone into his comfort space, पता नहीं किधर 5 लोग
ना
में भी
कैमरा
वो
आ गया।
he's hiding himself.
I think Suresh, you're on mute. I
Hey,
think, हाँ।
yeah, sorry. I was on mute. My video was on here.
नहीं ऑफ था यार।
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I was listening to you guys and looking at something else.
Okay.
Maybe it automatically switches off the camera when I move out of Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go first. No problem.
Okay. Okay.
I think the central idea is basically black swan events are the ones that you cannot predict, right? And black swan events basically are unpredictable, and we always, whatever is happening, we have a good explanation for that. We fit it mentally into our own model, right? So we fit it into a mental model which we explains it for our own limited purpose, and it doesn't really look at the root cause and all that, right? We just want a story that is sort of amenable to us, right? That's what happens. And black swan events are like will happen at every level without doubt, for everybody at an individual, for a society, for a country, for an entire system, for a company. It will happen, and they keep happening regularly, I think. One of the recent events that sort of caught my eye, and we discussed that also, was the rain the other day near the Bangalore airport. I mean, in Bangalore there were rains, and it was quite a bit of rain in a very short duration, and looks like okay, net and some, what happened? A lot of people miss their flights, right? Which is a bit strange nowadays, because really even heavy rains don't affect flight takeoff or landing. So I mean, as per the newspaper report, the airport was fully functional. There was no problem in the airport, right? But the approach to the airport was flooded, right? So basically the drainage in the road to the airport was fully flooded, that any vehicles, the typical cars could not pass through. So people had to get down and wade through water, or sort of hitchhike on tractors to get through, right? Due to which a lot of people miss their flights. I mean, it's like an event, black swan event, right? So basically the logic was, the airport said, authority said airport is functional, all the water drained away, there's no problem here, right? And the city authorities said that this is a once in 100-year rain, this was not accounted for at all in our planning, right? They said that, and then somebody else on Twitter had actually posted saying that this entire area is one of the lowest level areas compared to the surrounding. So if there's a lot of rain, I mean, whatever be the water amount, the water will collect in that area only, right? It's illogical to expect water to go anywhere. Water flows from higher level to lower level since the beginning of time. So since if there's more water, obviously more water will collect there. You have spent a lot of money to drain the airport, but not otherwise, right? So it is like a so it is like a black swan event is something that is coming, but all of us have limited explanations to justify day-to-day actions, and we keep moving ahead. Another example that it's a very broad example, but yeah, I think it's worth mentioning. Sort of, it makes sense to me, is like Facebook as a company, right? 3 years ago, if you look at Facebook, you would say I mean, Facebook is now all powerful, right? It is like the big brother plus convenience plus utility. I mean, there's everything there, and it will forever keep making money. What can go wrong, right?
Good
But
example.
today, no, nobody goes to. I mean, I am not there on Facebook. My kids are not there. I don't know who goes to Facebook at all, right? And in fact, they themselves went and changed their own name. Of course, there's a lot of story behind that why they did that, and they have their own reasons. But Facebook as a whole is completely. I mean, it's a shit place to go, right? I mean, people think it's an unethical company. The entire reputation of Facebook is not all that great. They make a ton of money without doubt. It is. I mean, if you look at some commentators, Facebook is like Pablo Escobar, right? Tons of money, big organization, but shit is after all a drug dealer, right? And you better be hunted down and killed. And then that's what happened to that kind of thing, right? It's not a reputation is down in the dumps.
Mm.
So where it comes from, nobody knows, right? Because the system is designed for a certain outcomes, and those that design itself contributes uh, to the downfall of that system, right?
Yes, Suresh, just one clarification. How is the black swan thing? How is the unpredictability being related? So you're saying that you didn't predict the downfall of Facebook. Is that the point? Or
Yes, that is the point. Because see, the system Facebook was designed to connect everyone and collect the information and sell ads, right? Good business model. There is nothing wrong in that business model, but somebody figured out that I will connect everyone, but 50% of this everyone are bots, are not human beings who are say and they are the bots are amplifying what I want them to amplify, right? Obama is bad or Biden is good or Trump is bad or whatever, right? Right wing stuff and left wing stuff, whatever stuff, right? So Facebook is connecting. I mean, basically, Facebook says I'll connect everyone to everyone in this world. But basically, what they meant was I'll connect every IP address, right? And they don't have real way of figuring out who is a human, not a human, right? So it is like the system is designed for one thing and to do one thing very well, and it actually that it's the itself the seed of the failure, right? But we never realize that. Uh, and earlier, maybe thanks to lack of technology, these things used to come out in 50 years, 100 years, or 500 years. Now they come out in 5 years, right? Then we have to go through this churn. Yeah, that is a
clear.
sort of connection. I don't know whether it's a clear connection I'm making, but yeah.
Okay. Thoughts? Others?
I can go next. Um,
Mm.
are you asking for a response to what Suresh said, or generally stuff?
So maybe the response first, and then generally your bit, the response to what Suresh said first.
Okay. ए सुरेश तू फिर से कैमरा
वो
ऑफ
कुछ
किया
और देखने लग गया यार फिर से
Oh, sorry.
वो पकड़ा जाता है ठीक है तो
मैं
शुरू
सोच रहा था
में
अभी
टिकने
अभी
वाली
अभी रेस्पॉन्स छोड़ दे उसको चाहिए नहीं वो चला गया
No, Ray, sorry. I'm fully listening.
too funny man. Okay.
Uh,
No, your thoughts, Arpit, on Suresh's point.
yeah, I appreciate that. Like what he said about like the airport uh, was a good example of a black swan event and the downfall of Facebook in the sense with the bots taking over. So that was an unforeseen event. We thought we were connecting people, but we are connecting machines actually. And we're thinking there are only people behind the machines when you're talking about the machines and the devices. And we never thought of the fact that there would be just devices and no people behind them. So I think that's a really good example. Yeah, nothing to criticize in terms of what he said. I can just add to it from my side.
Sure.
In terms of, Abhi, I'll just personalize this for me. Like I kind of quit a career and went into business in 2016. which
Right.
was a real estate business, where we did phenomenally in the first 6 months. 2016, was it 2016? Yeah, it was 2016 until December 2016. तो हम लोग ने business शुरू कर दिया, बढ़िया चला सब, I mean, all the stuff worked, all the planning and everything, until demonetization hit us. So now, whoever thought about demonetization, उसके लिए कौन plan करता है?
Great example, यार. Great example.
You know, फिर उसके
Totally
बाद
great example.
demonetization के बाद GST hit us, then the RERA hit us, and so it was like one hit after another after another. But the interesting thing was I really related to the seventh, the chapter just after the narrative fallacy, which talks about something about starting in a place of whatever, lack of success, whatever it called, starting in a place where you're not experiencing those everyday successes, and the courage it takes to just stay there, and the fact that the interesting thing that he mentioned was that your actually happiness quotient, or whatever he called it, works better when you have smaller rewards but more number of them, rather than one reward. So I think he was making a case that most people don't prepare for the black swan, a positive black swan, because of this need for constant reaffirmation. But I guess you guys have read further, so I'm keen to know what exactly, where does that actually lead to? Is he saying you should be there, or is he saying you should go for the the more regular rewards? But yeah, that is something that I kind of also, in a sense, appreciate. And it got me really thinking, I mean, how do I recalibrate? Is there something that I need to recalibrate in terms of approach to life, approach to career, approach to, these things, when I consider that? Or am I actually in the right place? So actually, I have to read the book fully to understand at least as far as he's concerned, what is he talking about? But I really appreciated this feeling that, hey man, you stick to one thing with a hope, and he says hope is a big currency, but with a hope that it's gonna it's gonna explode in your face in a very positive way at some point, and then that some point, you don't know when that some point is. And then, like he explained in that, that some point might come, but you might miss that some point. So it's a very large, it's a very big trade-off, it's a very big risk that some of us actually tend to take. But I don't know what it is about a personality type, maybe, which is a little stubborn and wants to stay there, rather than go for what might be considered as second best. I think Gulshan might be able to relate to this a little bit. So yeah, those were my takeaways immediately. Yeah.
So actually, I wanted to, I really resonated with that bit, the way he explained it. He talked about that, you don't earn anything for 10 years, and in the 11th year, you earn $1 billion, right? Your happiness with that compared to earning 10 million a year, right? So what he said is, we are wired for regular positive feedback. There has to be some feedback of your action, right? So how I resonated with that is because being on your own and consulting, and leaving a safe harbor of a job and a monthly salary and all, you straight away jump into this extremistan where there's no feedback. You are cold calling I do through emails or whatever I'm sending out to people. You don't even get a response for 100 emails. You won't even get, maybe you'll get 1-2 response. Yeah, okay, fine. I mean, kuch bhi nahi aata hai. There is the effort to result ratio is very, very in that result to effort is very poor, right? So it takes, so when I read through that, and he also gave that example of that one guy who is waiting for the war to happen, right? In that one moment of the war, and he spends his entire life and actually doesn't happen. It's not that it will happen in your life, that great one big event that you're waiting for. And he gives the example of all the, so many waiters in New York who actually want aspiring authors and waiting for their books to become bestsellers. 90% of them probably will never make it, which is actually the reality. The reality of startups also is more than 90% will fail. So the odds of succeeding when you're on your own or as an entrepreneur are very, very poor. Now, so looking at all these, very dark facts, I said, this is hitting me now. And how do I reconcile with that? Right? What does it tell me? Am I on the right path or not? So how I reconcile it for myself is that I might not make it. I mean, there is a great chance that it may not, business will trickle in a little bit here and there and may not hit really. Thoda bahut chalega, but may not hit really big time. And then what I ask myself is, am I going to be happy with that? That's my question to myself. Right? Will I be happy with, that's how this thing, or will I be able to make peace with that? Then I said to myself, I think I will be able to make peace with that, because there are things that I would have accomplished where, what I want to do is smell the roses, be with the family, and I want to write, and I want to paint, and I want to sing, and I do have time for all that. So I'm okay with being able to make peace with that. The point there is, can you make peace with it not succeeding in the way that you thought? The kids have come again. So that's what I'm saying. I think the end point is, can you, out of those 90, there's those waiters in New York hotels who are aspiring to become authors, can they not end up as cynical alcoholics who have failed at life and saying that there's no joy in life? Or can they end up as being, okay, I didn't make it, but I'm good, I'm happy with it, life is still beautiful?
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, beautiful personal stories, and really like how all three of you are connecting it with Black Swan. So indeed, this is really helpful. Any response to Gulshan's story from others?
Yeah, one point, it struck a chord what she said. I think in that book, he also says that, 90% of the efforts of individuals or startups will fail, but as a whole, the system will benefit because of the remaining 10 or 1% that succeed, right? It is like the individual dies, but the species flourishes. I think he uses different words, not the species or maybe the genetic pool or something like that he says. So the overall system will improve, but yeah, individually, it is almost like luck only. It is like throwing darts in the dark. You take a chance and somebody hits off, and just because we see that and we say, oh, I should also do it, right? It's the absolute survivor bias. We only look at the people who have survived and said succeeded. And but as a whole, the system is improving because of this. Somebody clicks and they bring something great innovation or whatever benefit to the society system.
That reminds me of sorry, I'm just picking up on what Suresh said. That I don't know. Have you seen the latest Facebook ad? I know we were trashing Facebook a bit earlier, but Facebook's got a recent ad, cricket ke upar ek, where they're actually making the same point that you're making, exactly the same thing, that there are going to be only 11 people who make it to the cricket team, but to get that 11 people there have to be a million people who are trying. And so those million people who are trying actually can take affirmation from the fact that because of their efforts, finally the country was able to get those 11. So that was an interesting thing. There's a little personal element to that ad, by the way. My kids have sung in it.
Oh wow, man, that is super cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool, man.
So
send the link. I want to, sorry, after you, Gulshan.
Yeah, so I wanted to add something to this, which I read, and I'm not, the whole thing about benefiting the system, right? The thing. So even when startups fail, they actually benefit the system. They may have innovated, created a practice, something so
huge,
right?
huge.
And so there was this book on evolution or something, and you know, the example given there was not about this. The example was given as that there are millions of sperms which have to fertilize only one ovum, okay? But finally, and there's only finally one sperm that makes it, but the enzymes of apparently those millions are required for it to this thing. So all the 9.9999 million guys are actually helping that one little guy to get in. So
To
there is
push it along.
supposedly there is supposedly some funda like that. So
Funda.
it's not just about the one guy who made it, but those 99 million guys have helped.
99 who
Yeah.
helped it. Hey, but I want to jump off on 2 points now based on Gulshan and Suresh, what you said. The 2 points I wanted to jump off was on the rewards part, getting intermediate rewards versus getting finality of rewards. There is a guy who's probably stunning thinker, Clayton Christensen. He's wrote a book around how you will measure your life. He said people work so hard at work and they spend such long time at work because there is some kind of a feedback. You do some work, you either get a promotion, get salaries, you get a positive feedback from the environment at regular points of time. But in parenting, they spend less time on the parenting because the rewards, etc., come right closer to when the children are leaving home. He said the ultimate test of a life, and I still remember that line. The ultimate test of a well-measured life. He put mathematical in terms of how you will measure your life. He said the ultimate test of a life is if you can put your hands on your hips and say you raised a good child. He says, and that the reward is deep long term. And that's a black swan. I mean, that's like a event kind of a thing. So that's a huge
Yeah, I
point he
actually
made.
quite resonate with that. Parenting, according to me, is a very, very tough job. There's no, the
Very
feedback is
tough. And
always
the
negative.
yeah, and the reward
Negative.
comes after,
The
yeah, yeah.
gestation is so long, bloody.
It's so long,
चलता ही
yeah.
चलता है, चलता ही जाता है. It's endless, right?
No,
Yes.
but you can actually. I was thinking of this as well, and I was thinking, when we are talking about that positive black swan to happen and staying in a place of no result and no feedback for a long time, one of the ways you do is hedge your bets in a sense that you don't only focus, you broaden your outlook to what life is. Right now we are talking from a entrepreneurial point of view, and say, like Gulshan was saying sometime back, suppose you never make it, are you going to be happy? The answer need not be no, because there are other things that make you happy, like parenting, and
Yes.
and
So
so that
that's,
just
yeah,
broadens your
that's
span and the
your,
way you look at it. Yeah.
I'd
yes.
like to respond to that, to what Arpit just said. It's not that the destination. So here it's again the journey and the destination. The journey can also make you extremely happy. So, irrespective of success, traditionally what is called success, or irrespective of any such thing, I think if you're on a high, a perpetual high uh, in the journey, that itself is reward itself.
Is rewarded. And the one thing, Amit, that I've personally learned is, just to give an example of parenting, being a parent is a very fulfilling thing, but it's not necessarily a rewarding thing. So the difference between reward and fulfillment, it's very fulfilling. The journey is fantastic. So the reward seems to be episodic. So yeah.
Yeah,
So,
correct. Very nicely
so
said.
is it not, Gaurav, is it not that it depends on what we attach our sense of reward to? Is it not?
Hmm. It is completely, and
वो
and
तो
rewards
है
are personal.
It is subjective.
in terms of rewards, like so if you're talking of it in terms of an investment, if you look at parenting and as a bringing up a child is an investment, returns on that investment, not in terms of money, but when the child starts really, he's grown up and he's become a good human being, and you've contributed something meaningful to the society, and this वो बहुत देर लगती है in terms of that return coming back on investment is very long. So obviously you have to change your mindset to be happy to have been blessed by this child, his laughter, his stupidities, his foolishness, and every little thing is bringing you joy. You need to change your mind frame on what is your meaning of rewards also. So I think that's a good point that Amit brought out. तुम्हारे rewards की calculation भी सोचना भी, you have to change that.
And also, Gulshan, when you say that I see my child at the end of say 15, 20 years as a good human being, and I'm happy about that. But I'm also referring to every second that you spend with him, during those 15-20 years, and you feel that happiness
Absolutely.
that yes,
Absolutely. Just the present that you have been blessed with this child. This child is there with me to have brought me so many moments of joy. There is no doubt.
no
There's
judgment, irrespective
no,
of
But
not
whether
at,
just
not at all.
to qualify the statement, sorry for being, the, I think the point is being made is work and the instant feedback that you get during
हाँ,
work
वो फर्क
and
है.
the parenting. There is
So
a
very,
time
which
frame
is
difference.
why, in terms of percentage, if I were to put forth a hypothesis, people who succeed at work may not necessarily succeed as parents. You will find as a percentage of people who have succeeded at work higher as percentage of people who have succeeded as parents. The subset of parent, this thing, these two subsets could also be different. There may be overlaps. Succeeding as a professional and succeeding as a parent, ये percentage कम होगी. This and का जो Venn diagram होगा, the overlap will be lesser, because it's all about selfishness. Even in parenting, selfishness will come up. Work may you're rewarded very selfishly. Your self-interest is topmost. Your self-interest is what is getting rewarded. Parenting may you have to let go of a lot of that. Lot of that. I've had, can you believe it? I have had in one of these sessions, we had some this thing, art of living, this thing. There was this lady, IIM Calcutta, something big shot in in a bank, must be at a president post or something. She was howling her eyes out to me. She said, my children, I have so much guilt. I don't know. I couldn't. She said, you've quit your job and you're spending time with your children. I said, yeah, thankfully. I said, I have no guilt. Now, for a woman, this is a very, very tricky part. But she was shattered and broken. She said, I just, now with going ahead with that, what joy has, so she's done very well for herself at work. Right. So what you brought about is this thing. It's far more difficult to be a better parent than being a good professional.
And the right answer is a balance. Folks, in the interest of time, can I share what I had picked up and learned, and then
वो जो fluidity वाला.
Yeah. So Gaurav, can I just come in and do my bit?
Of course. Of course.
Okay. So what really excited me was the casino example in the mediocre stuff. Where they move around the mean and they will not allow a very significant betting, because that can skew the equation for them. If that guy wins $1 billion in one bet, so they will always say that, okay, you can only bet from this point to this point. You cannot bet beyond that. So, again, then the book said that you need to move into an extremistan environment, like where black swans are present. And because they're not present in a mediocre environment. So let's say a stock market. Now, in a stock market, the example given was that, say if you put 85% of your thing in very strong security, and 15% in outliers, 15% where it can bring, and you don't really go around predicting, because the black swan is about the unknown, where you do not know you do not know what will happen. So basically, when you broadly kind of put it, say, in those industries, you put your money in those industries which are black swan like venture capitalists, like what Ghoshal pointed out, and publishing, for example, and many other industries, which are to some extent or to a large extent unpredictable in terms of general parametric economics and all that. So one would say that you bleed through those years in that 15% chunk. You bleed through with that eternal hope that one of them will kind of shoot off. So in one way, it could sound like a gamble, but in another way, it could be something very, something very basic to this black swan understanding. And then the other example of Tony the racehorse.
So I haven't read that one.
Okay, where the racehorse is very healthy, all set to win. Everybody's betting on this guy, but the owner knows or may not know that this guy is going to just when the signal starts for the tournament, for the competition, the racehorse is just going to lie down. is not going to do the race.
Mm.
That becomes like a black swan event where everything is
Yeah, I
completely
recall that.
geared to win, and then suddenly this horse says, "Okay, boss, I'm going to take a nap." So
Yeah,
then
I
what?
think yeah.
नहीं तो
Sorry.
point क्या था? What is the point? What is the point? But in the sense कि why does so that's a black swan, but how is he linking it to a concept?
In the sense that everybody is saying that this horse is going to win, so there's a lot of predictability with it.
Okay, because the predictability on the
And then a lot of money is invested, and so the unpredictability of the part that the horses are going to lie down and then create a great loss for those who have invested. So an extreme event for them, at the same time unpredictable. So, and then this reminded me of this concept that I used to really love for a long time, that is negative capability. So negative capability is the ability to be in doubt without jumping to saturate, without jumping to solve it. So if you are in that doubt, you're able to withstand that uncertainty, that doubt. Then it is possible to come up with something creative, which is not saturated, not filtered
deep point.
from past data, So if it is
Deep
not
point.
saturated by past data, then there could be a black swan coming in. But if it is saturated, if it is filtered, then it is predicted in some way, either consciously or unconsciously.
Good point. Good point. Really good point. Really good point. Yeah. Thanks. Cool, man. Really
I was
nice.
just
This is
thinking, just picking up from just one thing from what Amit was saying, is if you look at the fundamental point of the book, like which is what we've been grappling with, what is the book really saying? And a lot of us are concluding that book is saying that we should be really conservative. But actually, what Amit picked up was actually quite opposite. In it's not necessarily saying that. It's basically in some cases also saying that you got to take some real big risks. So that's something that just struck me. I thought I should just process that
If I
for
can,
myself.
yeah, I want to add there with what you said. So basically, what the books, my takeaway is, black swan events cannot be predicted. Will the stock market crash? Will I have a heart attack tomorrow? Right? I mean, very much possible, right? Anything can happen, right? So those things cannot be predicted. There's no point trying to predict that also. And I think very relevant topical example is Puneeth Rajkumar, right? Who can expect that he will have a heart attack, right? But he's been a brand ambassador for a healthy heart ads and whatever not. So that's a real black swan event at a Puneeth Rajkumar level, right? I mean, he died. So, but then what we have to plan for is the consequences of a black swan event, right? And consequences, to plan for the consequences of a black swan event is one, to remove the negative effects of a black swan event. And next level would be to convert a black swan event into a probable white swan. How do you position yourself in such a way that when the black swan event happens, you have you benefit, right? So there are two parts to this. Is what if I have a heart attack tomorrow? What are the consequences, right? Obviously, I'm dead, so it doesn't matter anymore. But what happens to my family and dish and all that, right? So I think at a personal level, I look at it that way. Always think of consequences, which is not what I mean. That's not the way the words we use when we discuss the future is not that, right? Even with our kids, oh, will you get into this college or not? Will you get this much or not? Is all we discuss events, right? We should move to consequences, right? So what if this happens? If this goes wrong, drastically goes wrong, is okay in some range, or it's absolutely good, right? What happens? And if it goes wrong, what will I do? And if it goes wrong, how can I convert something going wrong into some benefit for myself? I think that is I think that is the limited point he makes in this book, and I think you have to read all the 5 books to understand how to navigate that navigate risk. And actually, that converting a black swan into white swan is very easily explained in finance. I really don't know how to explain it in. I mean, what are the analogies in anything else? Like the short selling. You buy a stock and also sell it at the same time, right? You hedge your bets basically, and that's a very, very standard way of dealing with risk in finance, right? You know, I don't know what's going to happen, so I'll buy something and sell the same thing at the same time and see and sit tight, and I'll cover myself both ways.
Mm.
I think that is one.
Cool. Indeed. So folks, how are we doing for time now? So I have a session for 10, 12 minutes I planned. Are we okay for 15 minutes or?
Yes,
Yeah,
I think we're
good.
right on
Please
time.
go ahead. Waiting
Okay.
for that. Yeah, let's go.
Okay. So, hey, so I want to talk about the idea that appealed to me and I wanted to personalize it as well. So indeed, Taleb's idea was anti-fragile. So you send a parcel, instead of writing on a box that glass is fragile, you put something in it, which the more disturbance it gets, it becomes better. So indeed, Suresh, to your point, how do you convert it to a white swan? But one of the lines he said that really, really struck with me. The line was fragility as a inverse correlation to efficiency. Now, I had read something on efficiency from this guy called Roger Martin, and then this fragility efficiency was really playing with me. Yeah. So there was this boss of mine who said, go to the place in your mind where your ideas start having sex. So this was exactly what was happening. So this fragility efficiency was really playing on it. And I've come up with this a little bit of thoughts around this again using both the authors. And first, I will relate it to the companies I work for and also the field that I have, which is looking after people. One of the first events that struck me was the whole crisis in the United Kingdom with the petrol not being there, and they're having gas runouts at stations. And then you go into deeper and try to find out that the United Kingdom is basically the structure of the economy is basically a just-in-time structure for the economy. So indeed, it's an island. I'm relating it more to what we have here. So indeed, it's an island off the coast of Europe, and everything was designed around things being just in time. So the goods and the lorries would come in from France. The workers would come in from Poland. They would assemble stuff in the UK, and UK would become the powerhouse. So the whole structure of the economy was just in time. And the when they walked out of the Brexit, when they walked out of the four freedoms of the European Union, freedom of labor, freedom of capital, freedom of goods and services, the Polish workers did not arrive at United Kingdom, the guys who would drive the lorries. And therefore, their entire economy kind of thing for a momentary period of time, because it was all just in time. The petrol was available, but the petrol could not reach the stations in the UK, basically because the lorry drivers did not come in from Poland. Now, United Kingdom otherwise is known in Europe as one of the most efficient economies, but it could not withstand the shock of it could not withstand the shock because it was fragile economy as well. Because once you took away the labor part of it, it became fragile. And this was my understanding of the larger things. But then I tried to see for more examples around not just economy but around companies, etc. That I could see around me. And even in supply chain or even in factories, we had heard, I had read about the concept of just in time from all the manufacturing lessons classes. And this entire supply chain of being just in time, people, parts reaching just in time, companies manufacturing it, now suddenly seems like a liability more than an asset because the fragility is so delicate. There is zero slack in the system. All these Japanese concepts of, and they're right, all the concepts of being continuously improving and keeping the supply chain absolutely tight. It makes things very, very efficient, but it builds and builds on the fragility of the system. But please don't get me wrong. Huh? Not for a second am I saying that efficiency is a bad thing. I think efficiency is a good thing, but too much of a good thing can cause fragility. And when the volume is turned too loud and there is zero slack in the system, that's when the system becomes super fragile. And I think when one of the areas we saw this was again in hospitals. Huh? So people said, what is the point of keeping PPE? Because there are masks, they just hang around here, and there are coats, they just hang around here. So the PPE stock across hospitals in America and Europe was very low, I think across the world, because they did not build in for the slack and they did not build in for a buffer. Similarly, the largest costs in hospitals are the costs of nurses. And all hospitals in America, especially the groundbreaking rule of capitalism, they kept nursing costs lower, so they would not hire nurses, and whatever nurses they would hire, the minute they would reach a certain age, they would try to eliminate the nursing staff that they had. So once you had a perfect storm of like a tsunami of COVID hitting, you did not have enough PPE in the system, you did not have enough nurses in the system, and the whole system could not withstand the for a period of time. So please take it with a pinch of salt. It could not withstand the shock of not having a buffer. So while just in time is good, I think buffers and and there is an element to be said for having a bit of a balance between efficiency and fragility. I have two, three more examples, but I'll just pause it for a second. Is there a thought that is resonating with you among these examples?
Yeah, there's a, there's a very funny thought resonating with me. So
Yes.
I'll tell you, when you get, especially at this age, the clothes that you wear, you must always plan for a slack. If your size
Right. Yeah,
size
that's a
is
good one.
X, L,
Yeah.
you buy an XL or a double XL. So there is slack to accommodate all the flab that is coming. Otherwise,
Coming
if
in the
it's too
system.
efficient and it fits well, the slightest disturbance in the system will break it.
Efficiency will be there, fragility will be very high. Yeah.
Fragility will be
True.
very apparent. फट जाएगा वो.
I'm reminded of the
Yeah.
assembly line kind of concept when you said just in time. So when you said just in time, I'm reminded of assembly lines somewhere, and how assembly lines eventually failed. In a kind of a uncertain and evolutionary world. So if a system is too efficient and too assembly line, one screw gets into the system and the whole system collapses because everything is dependent. Too many bottlenecks, too many dependencies in an assembly line system. So that is what struck me.
Indeed. So
I have,
yes.
yeah. So my thought was very good points, Gaurav, and so basically, if I can add, what you say is a very efficient system is also a very tightly coupled system, right? So just-in-time systems are like the Polish worker aayega, good, some raw material will come, it will get assembled, and it will move out of the warehouse. Customers will buy it, consume it, and that cycle keeps going on, right? So efficient systems are usually very tightly coupled systems. That means when I action A and action B, there is no inefficiency in transmission of. I mean, the result effect of cause action A becomes the cause of action B, and so on and so forth. It's very tightly coupled. What it tightly coupled means, it is also transmitted with minimum wastage, right? That entire
Huge point.
becomes a cause
huge
of,
point.
right?
Yes, causes become effects, become causes, become effects. Huge point.
Correct.
Yeah.
And what happens is, as the steps increase, some of the effects, we always assume that effects are linear, right? Sometimes the effects are not linear, something else happens,
Exponential.
right?
Yes.
Exponential, and then the system starts breaking down. And I always connect this.
Exactly.
Yeah. So basically, I connect this with actually bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is extremely tough. And I've realized this over a period of time. So what is the greatness of a bodybuilder is, let's say, somebody has this. There are so many muscles in the body. I think some 206 or whatever the number of muscles, or 10,000 muscles. So let's say you have some muscle in your tricep or something, right? That itself, that area has some 3-4 muscles, right? You want to develop one muscle. Actually, the problem in developing that muscle just for show, vanity, of course, bodybuilding is a vanity sport, it just show off, right? But if you want to, the problem in developing that muscle is because you have to isolate the effort on that, right? The human body is designed to compensate, right? In a way, it is very inefficient. It is designed to get you through life. That's it. It is not designed for you to look good at all, right? By design. So that's why bodybuilding is so tough, because you're going around against the basic design of a human being who is expected to hunt, gather, whatever, right? All the things that a human being expected to do over a period of time. It is human body is designed for that. So in a way, it is very effective, but it is not inefficient for bodybuilding, which is for show off,
Yes.
right? So I actually connected with that. Yeah, that's where my
That's a nice connection there. But I will talk about systems and the overall the complex adaptive system. So I'll use that example as well. Indeed, Arpit, Amit, anything before I proceed to the second part?
Just, I mean, the one thing that came to mind was the internet. The internet has created a lot of efficiency. For example, memory. Where do I store my data? I used to first store it on a CD or on a hard drive or on the computer drive, which at least I knew was going to be there. Then suddenly what happened was that the amount of data I had became so large that the drives were not enough to store it. So I started storing it on the internet. Right. So now we have all of this drives and Google and OneDrive and all, on which everything is there. uh, and a similar, like a sister to that, is banking. Right now I do all my banking on my mobile phone. Now if I go to my parents, they will freak out with that, because they inherently see the fragility of that system.
Exactly. The single point of failure is more if you centralize it more and more.
एग्जैक्टली अभी मेरा इंटरनेट अगर चला गया तो मेरा पूरा मेमोरी चला जाएगा. अगर अगर वो बैंक का सिस्टम फेल हो गया तो मैं जो साइकिल लेके जाके अपना इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बिल भरता था, वो सिस्टम तो चला गया. अभी वो मुझे फिर से लेके आना पड़ेगा, विच इज गोइंग टू कॉस्ट वेरी मच
Which is
टू
cost.
डू इट.
And Arpit, exactly to your point, the system created your transaction costs to become very efficient, and that's why the transaction cost kept dropping. But the fragility kept on increasing, and that's the part which we have to be very careful about. So indeed, Amit, आपका?
This also reminded me of like what I also mentioned in the larger group about the system being, when it becomes a little chaotic in such situations, how it is stable and unstable at the same time. And then it just reminded me of, this is not directly connected, but this just reminded me of the strange attractors. So we have like around every system a strange attractor, which is like a method in the madness. But it is not predictable. It emerges on its own, and if it can be identified. So here again, the point you raised about that efficient system just in time, in case there is a problem which the system cannot handle and there is a breakdown, then then what happens?
The chain effects of that is very large indeed.
Very large.
So, yes, indeed. And especially, Amit, in a black swan scenario, you really get wiped out. Huh? This COVID, for example, is a black swan scenario, right? But you get wiped out more than you planned to wipe out.
Yeah.
Folks, I'll just proceed to part two if it's okay. And this is where I was personalizing it with the companies I worked for. So the company I worked for today is AkzoNobel. It was ICI in the old days. But for last 4 years, it has had a strategy called, not a strategy, it has got a whole goal called 15 by 20, which is meaning it hits 15% return on sales, net margins by 2020. So this was the whole company was galvanized towards 15 by 20, 15% return on sales, 15% margin on 2020. But the real thing was, this is an efficiency metric. This is a metric which shows that how the money that you will get, how it will flow to the bottom line, and what percentage will you drive. So it's completely rewards efficiency only. But the thing is, the unintended consequences was, people were not searching for growth, customer acquisitions, revenue growth at all, because you're only searching for a margin percentage. So when customers do not become important, growth doesn't become important, and everything that becomes important is operating expense and how much percentage of margin you can bring. The revenue is no longer at play. So the point Roger Martin made is, through another example, is any unitary method, and look at your own companies that you work for, any unitary method of measuring is always prone to damage and fragility. So if you're only measuring one thing, it is very dangerous. So what this guy says is, always try to choose a metric which has some kind of an inherent tension and duality with another metric. For example, all airlines monitor labor costs, right? Except for, and they just try to drive labor costs to the ground, Delta Airlines, United Airlines, etc. Except for Southwest Airlines, which has that we will become the most profitable, highest customer satisfaction, and least costs. So, and that there is an inherent tension in that, an inherent duality with that. But this forces you to be clever. So you want highest profitability, highest customer satisfaction, but lowest cost. Normally, the conventional thinking is if you want lower cost, hire cheap people, pay them low. But Southwest, what it does is it makes, and we've all read the case study, it makes point to point, it makes the system so that you only need lesser number of people. But whatever people you need, you pay them very well. So when you pay them very well, you sure, and you take care of them, of course, the satisfaction is there. But you try to keep a little bit of a duality in this. Huh? So there is customer satisfaction you get. Otherwise, if you only get lower employee cost, you'll have something like Delta and United, which have strikes every other way. But but my whole frustration with this 15 by 20 ExxonMobil is that every function, as you know, every functional leader intended to become efficient in his own pipe. So HR wanted the lowest HR cost, supply chain wanted the lowest supply chain cost, and everybody was trying to get very efficient in their own pipe. And the desire for an end to end became almost zero. So I gave the last time the example of the aerospace industry, which I handled. Honestly, we're just printing out money. Yeah. So every for every 1 cent, $1, we get 30 cents back. Yeah. So it's huge amount of margins. But at the same time, production is not willing to give us the money because they are monitored by production costs. And for us, production costs are not even like, they don't even matter because the margin we make on the product is so huge. And for the company, the margin is so huge. But they are trying to optimize from what they are seeing. But the system design is not helping the company at all. So I think every time you have a silo and every time you have efficiency within the pipe, you create a fragility for the whole company. I'll just give one more example from Carrefour, the company that I work for. Again, it was the metric that we had is labor costs to be as low as possible. So Carrefour is a retail company. It's after Walmart the second largest retail company, and the idea was to keep cost as low as possible. So we would always hire minimum wage workers, and we would always play them, increase their salaries by the basic possible. So you would have people who were selling blood in their day jobs just so that the kids could get educated, that kind of people. So, but at the same time, there is this company called Mercadona in Spain, which believes that it should, instead of labor costs being as low as possible, it should be sales per unit of labor costs. It realized that the more salespeople you have in the store, the more sales happen, which is not the assumption Carrefour was working for. Carrefour was working on the less of the labor costs, the better the margins. But Mercadona as a company is working for, suppose you have two people and one person comes and say, hello, how are you? How can I help you? Then the sales increase. So they are managing things differently. And so people per square foot was not a metric to them. And so efficiency is important, but you should be very clear what you are wanting to be efficient for. So for example, Southwest, all its employees are multi-skilled, all its employees are higher talented, or they command a higher premium in the labor force, primarily because, yeah, employee satisfaction linked to customer satisfaction linked to company growth. And they're able to make that journey as well. And probably the last point I would make is, and I will go back again to this siloed thing. The last point I want to make is the metaphor that at least we had read together is of a machine and it being very efficient, and things being, you take the parts of a machine, you make it very efficient, you put the machine back in. But more and more, and we realize that systems are something like the complex adaptive system, like the human body, like a forest. You do something like parenting, you do something, you don't know if the effects are going to happen now, effects are going to happen in 10 years, 5 years, whether this lever, this button you push, if I tell Manya this, he will do this tomorrow. You don't know the cause and the effect. So in a forest, you don't know if you take a plant away, what is the effect it will have in the future. Similarly, whether there are intended effects, unintended effects, you never know. You just know that the system is complex. You don't know which button to press and what effect it will have. And the system is adaptive. So companies and systems and forests and human bodies, they all adapt. So, we have to have the right metaphor in our mind before we have the right philosophy for ourselves. And that's why this fragility, efficiency, metaphor philosophy is very important. Honestly, that's I have lots of other things, but I will pause it for now, and that's the point I want to make. Yes,
Quickly,
Amit.
so I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Gaurav, it just has reminded me of the reductionist kind of approach, the silo approach. And just today I happened to meet somebody who is a distributor of alkaline water.
Mm.
And, there's this entire business of medicines which cure disease. But this alkaline water can simply create a situation for you where without medicine you can get healed very quickly, because there is more absorption of water in the cells, there is creation of new cells, there is removal of free radicals in the blood. So, the point is that even this was to me something great that we are geared in our thinking towards a reductionist approach, where we say, okay, we fall ill, we take medicines, we get back, but the medicines are further toxic and they create further problems for us in the long run. So
Yeah.
here there's a
Yeah.
complete replacement of alkaline water, for example. So it's not that it need not be a true thing or a false thing, but just the
Mm.
mindset, that there could be a revolutionary thing to completely change reductionist patterns. So that is what instantly struck me.
Fair point. Gulshan, you were saying something?
so. On that, the efficiency fragility to me is a new concept. I'm happy that I learned about it. The other thing you spoke about is we also call it balancing metric. Every metric must have a balancing metric, that tension. So the balance scorecard immediately came to mind. So they also measure
It's a huge, exactly.
right? It's a huge this thing. So companies move from, and if you look at it, so there's so many, the strength of the leadership team of the organization, very fuzzy to measure, but it has a huge impact on how well the company will do the train. There's so much research now that the amount of training hours, the coach, if it has a learning culture, their revenues, their sales, their customer, this thing, all those things are higher. So the balanced metric. And also reminded me of the book Jim Collins' Good to Great. Usme wo ek concept bolta hai, the genius of the and, A and D. So he's not saying profit or revenue. There's no or. Profit and revenue. And then there's this balancing metric, actually you can apply it everywhere, and especially in parenting. Indulgence and discipline. So you can't, ek hi side pe, you can't go way too heavy on either side. The consequences are devastating. So I like that balancing, but the efficiency fragility is absolutely new to me. So that means the more efficient you make a system, the more prone it is to shocks from the environment. The greater, because it's so custom tailored, so specified to its requirements, it is unable to absorb any changes in its environment very easily. So uski adaptability kam ho jati hai, and therefore is more fragile.
But Gulshan, आज की दुनिया में adaptability is everything, man. Agility, because
so again, I think you have to strike a balance.
You have to strike a balance.
You have to strike a balance, because you need both. You have to be adaptable. So I think there is at a level, at every different level, the balance point is different. For an individual, it's different. For an organization, to find that balance is extremely difficult between efficiency and fragility. हाँ चलो.
Arpit, Suresh, I'll just quickly get their views. Suresh, Arpit.
Oh, I was just drawing some complicated threads to the earliest discussion we had when we started off. We were talking about the whole silo issue that you raised. and you connecting that with the system issue that we were talking about in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. That was the idea. Yeah.
When we're talking about, entrepreneurs may feel like they've lost, but actually they haven't, because they've contributed to the whole system. Similarly, your production, I mean, I can draw a thread with your production department, which was trying to win for itself, but their win was causing a loss for the entire
That is
system.
the entire
So
system.
it's
Yes,
a system
indeed.
thinking, the entire system thinking
It's
that
the
we are talking
entire
about.
system. Indeed. Yeah. Suresh, anything from your side?
No, nothing more to add here. Good points. Basically, efficiency is yeah, you're optimizing for one particular variable, and yeah, it's like you know, I mean, like I was having this discussion yesterday with my daughter about her next year 11th. So the option is to go to some school where there is a lot of focus on entrance exam, or go to a school which is slightly more chill and focused only on general academics, and entrance exam coaching she'll do on her own, right? So you optimize for one thing, right? So as soon as you optimize for one thing, I mean, her obvious question was, oh, I'm giving away the safety of I mean, I'm not able to think of another words. I'm giving away the safety of breath, right? I'll do this, I'll do that, and I'll have good fun in school. I won't, I won't be under too much pressure. Right? I was like saying that, why don't you focus on being efficient at getting more marks and cracking the entrance exam by going to the school? Yeah, where it is like almost like a factory, right? You go in 8 to 3 or 8 to 4, you study hard, come back and get to it next day again. And they have it on Saturday also. And they have they have a test on every Sunday, they have a test also, right? It's like a crazy coaching. I mean, it's like very
Cooking.
focused, right? So yeah, that kind of thing, right? You design something, a system to achieve one particular outcome, and it naturally becomes fragile, right? And which is not the way nature designs anything.
Yes, and honestly, Suresh, that
Nature
is
is
exactly the point. In nature, that is not design. But again, I'll just bring it back. The summary message is anything unitary, and whether you go by Gulshan's lady that she met in Calcutta, or anything unitary focused, is always a recipe for danger, and you should watch out. If you're only interested in hitting vice president by 40 and you care a shit about the children, if you're only interested in making money from stock options and care a shit about long-term investments, anything unitary, be very careful and think very well. So that, I think that's the summary message. Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
So, okay. Hey, folks, really enjoyed this, man. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, me
Thank
too.
you.
Really, very good
Thank you.
discussion. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank
Superb.
you.
Thank you,
All
Amit.
right, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank
So
I'm
you.
going to stop.
Bye.
are we
Thank you,
continuing the
Arvind.
Black Swan next time, or are we moving to a new book?